Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Agents to Owners podcast. I am looking forward to the conversation this week with second-time guest from the greater Lexington, Kentucky area, Mr. Tamron Manning. Tam, welcome back, my friend.
Thank you, Brad. Man, I'm honored to be back on the show as a second time guest. Makes me feel good. So I'm honored to be here with you today, man.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to chopping it up. We were just kind of talking a little bit off air, and obviously I've been following you, since we last met, which was about a year ago,
Mhm.
and just kind of excited what you're doing and your intentionality of growing as a business owner, which I think is somewhat rare. I think a lot of agents early in their career talk about it, but you've been so intentional about um, doing the things to become a business owner, which is so important and something most of us don't do. I didn't do, even when I took over an existing business. So I'm really looking forward to getting into everything about that.
So,
So you're 3 years into the business,
mhm.
right? Over 3 years, is that right?
I'm in the mid. So I'm two and a couple months
Okay,
into the business. So two full years,
two.
and this year's a couple
Okay,
months. Yeah,
that's what I thought. So we're
yeah.
still really early.
So middle of
Uh,
year.
Summarize for me what it's been like so far to be a business owner.
Man, it's been fun. I will start with it's been fun. I gotta
Yeah,
say that I'm blessed to own a business for sure. There are some obstacles, some deep valleys, some highs, and some lows. But all in all, man, it's been fun. It's been great. I love this industry. I love the what it's afforded me to do and the opportunities that I get to meet with people and network and just to grow as a person. I think the biggest thing as a business owner, what I've learned so far is you have to continue to grow
yeah,
yourself. It really stretches yourself to be as best as you can be. You have to do those non-negotiable things. Reading is my
yeah,
big thing right now. Just reading and learning. There's so much that you have to learn if you want to get to certain levels. Like you can stay here if you want, but if you want to jump up and keep rising, you got to read. You got to be a wealth of knowledge. Be a intentional learner. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. That's the stage I'm in. Is trying to get better at just owning a business.
yeah. What are you reading right now?
Got it right here beside me. The E-Myth
Oh yeah,
Revisited. Got it right
yeah,
here beside me. Every entrepreneur, if you're not watching the podcast and you're listening, I'm
yeah.
reading the E-Myth right
E-Myth.
now. Gotta read it if you're an entrepreneur getting started. I would definitely recommend it.
That's a must. That's a must read.
It is.
I'm more of a listener. I've listened to that 3 times
You have. Okay, so you
over the
know
years.
this.
Yeah, yeah. Right now, in fact, I'm going back to Traction. Have you done that one?
Yeah, I got traction over there in my
Yeah,
little office library here.
yeah, yeah. That's a must read for us too. Um, so talk about. Oh, I want to ask you this. So your development, which I love, are you
Mhm.
able to see your development from, say, 2 years ago, just from being intentional about educating yourself on these things?
Yeah, man, it's that's the great part about business, sport, whatever you like to do. Obviously, I'm a sports guy, so sports, anything, it's all output and input. So if you can put in and be intentional about something, you're gonna see or reap the results of it. So for me, the biggest thing that I'm doing right now is from year one to now, just the stuff that I'm thinking about within my business. I used to be so worried about like sales month to month as a producer, because that's my producer mindset. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I gotta save this sale for January. I had a big month in December, but I want to save a sale for January. But when you look at it, all the sales are the business sales. You don't have to move stuff around and do all this stuff. So I'm just learning what metrics to look at,
Yeah.
what type of numbers to look at, and to be truly intentional about data. Just all the stuff that just comes with it, like you just
Yeah.
never thought of when you're just a producer, like how important getting the email right is. Like just so many
Yeah.
things, the questions, the discovery, so all that stuff. So yeah, I've seen a big improvement in myself professionally, just by reading and talking to smart people like yourself.
Yeah. And it happens over time, right? I
Yeah, yeah,
mean,
definitely.
all of a sudden, like you start to understand how all these pieces are connected.
So important.
Um, and that's just part of it, getting better, trying to get better each and every day
Yeah.
by doing those things. Talk about some of the lessons that you've learned over the last couple of years.
Man, the biggest lesson, honestly, that I've been learning over these past couple of years is just how important it is to one, understand what type of business you are. So I see a lot of young business owners, and this isn't just insurance related, but understanding what your business does, who you serve, who the correct people to market to are. You don't want to be all things to everybody, which when I started, I wanted to be.
Yeah.
I can write everybody's insurance. This is going to be great. But you don't want to set yourself up like that, because a lot of issues can come from that. You get a lot of, you want brand recognition, but if you do all things for everybody, your brand can get a little foggy and people don't know, like, kind of, does he do commercial? Does he do personal lines? Like all this stuff. So that's kind of what I've learned. And what I'm continuing to learn is how important your brand message is, how important your marketing is, your wording. All that stuff is important. It's not just minuscule stuff. You have to be intentional about what message you're pushing out for people to see. And that helps you with customers. That helps you with staff. If you're trying to hire, it lets you know, hey, this office, we're about this, this, and this. So it gives you a true brand identity. And I think that's super important. And a lot of insurance agencies and agents miss that boat, I think, because they're so focused on selling insurance. Yeah. But there's a brand side of selling insurance that you have to be really intentional about. So that's probably the big thing I'm learning right now.
So what are some of the things that you've kind of honed in on that is your focus, that you're trying to push out, that this is what this is what integrity is. This is the kind of business that we are looking for?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for me, for our business here, I want people to understand that, one, we're not all things to everybody. I think we have a strategic plan now. Now I'm saying this now, 2.5 years in. I wasn't like this just a year ago, honestly. So this is kind of new for me as well. But I'm saying now that we want to market to the right clientele. We want to push out the message that we are more advisory than we are order takers. So it's going to be tough to kind of get that message shifted, especially if you started out a certain way. But for me right now, just being really intentional about having longer conversations, doing things as far as quote intake, something simple as quote intake. I want to even make that bigger discovery call. We're asking questions that you might not have heard been asked at the last place you call. So if you're shopping insurance, somebody's asking you about your where you work and what your how much you make in a year and what kind of assets you have. If somebody's talking assets with you and stuff like that, but you hadn't heard that, but the last place you called, it's going to be a little different for the consumer. So that's kind of what I'm putting forth and putting out, is we're going to be a little bit different than how you typically shop insurance. So people who respect that, we'd love to work with you. But if it's not something you want to answer, if you don't want to answer these questions, if you don't want to give us the information, then it's okay. You can shop somewhere else. That's the beauty of having options. But with us, we want to get the full details of the story. We want to know why you're shopping. How was your experience with your last insurance agency? Did they handle things right? How did they handle things? And we just collect all that and want to use it for the sale.
Yeah, you're taking a consultative approach.
Yeah, got to be that way. I feel like right now, especially in our market right now, you want to be over asking, I feel like, instead of asking as little as possible and spitting out quotes.
Which is one way to, that's how you separate yourself. After a while, I figured out that I wanted to be I wanted to be a part of someone's team. Mm-hmm. You have your CPA, you might have your attorney, you have your financial advisor. I want to be your insurance advisor.
Yeah. Same concept. Yeah.
And so, yeah, to your point, we're not looking for, say, the one car household necessarily, and that's okay. Everybody's got to start somewhere. That doesn't mean it's a bad piece of business, but that's just the non-standard business might not be the place with integrity.
And I want to say this too, and shout out Brett Young. He kind of taught me this from afar. I heard him say it on a different show he was on. But I'm really focused on being people's full-time agents. He
Yeah.
said that, and it kind of stuck with me. When he said it was a perfect time because I was struggling with just accepting, like, okay, you have your auto with me, but your home is with State Farm or whatever. And I was kind of accepting that. I was like, man, I'm getting the business, is fine. We'll get the home down the road. But
Yeah.
now it's like, no, let me take a step back. Let me present a proposal where I'm proposing you, no matter what, auto, home, umbrella package. Here's the
Yeah.
proposal that we offer. Um, Now, do you need the umbrella right now? No, not necessarily. But do I feel like it's the best package for you guys, the proposal for you that will protect you the right way? Yes, 100%. So I'm presenting as somebody's full-time agent. So if somebody asked me to
Yeah.
quote, hey, we have an auto we need quoted. I'm almost saying, hey, we'll quote your auto, but we're going to go ahead and quote this full insurance package that we offer here at Integrity. And then we'll let you kind of decide what you want to do, and we'll kind of go from there. But always presenting the full package has been a huge plus for me. And I've won some deals with people who either one, never heard of umbrellas, or two, never thought about getting one. Now they got an umbrella on their in their insurance portfolio, which I think is huge. And it's what we're here to do. We're not here to just write people's auto insurance. We're here to
Right.
truly protect people. And that umbrella, when you need it, you may not need it, but when you need it, it's a great policy to have. So that type of stuff and just being better at that type of stuff is huge. And I think it's kind of helped me grow as an agent and as an agency owner.
Yeah. Again, it sets yourself aside as a professional.
Yeah.
Whereas an order taker is, they might just quote the auto, and by you taking, the extra 5 minutes, and I don't know if are you using video proposals at all?
Yeah. Alone.
Yeah. And so just by introducing that, you don't have to make it a 10-minute video, but just
No.
offering, this is what we suggest, and this is gonna, protect your assets in the event of a lawsuit potentially. And they may not take it, they may not, but they know that you offer it, and you went that extra mile.
And that's why the
And
discovery call is important,
yeah,
because now I know what your assets are. So if I'd
yeah,
never asked, oh yeah, I do own this and I do have this rental property, I do have this. If I never asked that, then I would have never, well, this person don't need an umbrella. I don't know what kind of assets they have. So that
yeah,
question tees up what I say in the video proposal, because I'm like, yeah, remember you said that you own a business. This umbrella would be perfect to protect you over there. Or if you own multiple cars, like all that stuff that we're getting in the discovery call has led almost to like the sale being even easier. So the more questions you ask up front, I feel like I've learned the easier the sale at the
yeah,
end is, a lot
correct.
easier, because you're just putting that stuff into the sales proposal, all
Yeah,
the stuff they told you. So that's what I
yeah,
wanted to kind of pinch in there.
yeah. Uh, let's turn to some of the ways that you are, uh, actively growing as a business owner.
Mhm.
And one way that you grow, or the major way you grow as a business owner, is to grow your team. You can't. We all, when we start out, we wear all these hats. You're doing all the jobs, and you have to.
Yeah.
You have to produce. You have to do the financials. You have to grow. You need to add to the team. So let's talk a little bit about your trials and errors on that end of things. I know you hired, you fired, um, you it was a good experience for you.
Yeah.
So let's talk about where you're at with that. Do you have a team member right
Uh,
now?
shout, Shout out to my wife. I have a part-time wife helping me right now, so she's doing some things just part-time. So yeah, I do
Uh,
technically have some help. So shout
you
out to her.
you have a part-time wife, or
I have a part-time helper who is my wife. She seconds as my wife, and she helps here at the agency. But yes, she is.
okay?
She's helping. We're kind of all hands on deck right now because of how fast we've grown. Um, so yeah, to get back to the hiring, I have had two instances where I brought people in. One wasn't the right fit. The other had an unforeseen circumstance where she ended
Yeah,
up having to move back to where she was from. She came here from a different state, so she had something where she had to move, which we couldn't control. So I totally understand that. But yeah, that's kind of been my experience with it. There are some things that I've learned in both instances, and it's hard, but it's also a good learning experience, like you said. The main thing that I want to kind of just take is, like everything, you have to have a process. So we have a process for everything in our agency right now.
yeah,
And hiring is one that almost has to be an even better process than some of the other stuff, because you're bringing somebody in, you're spending not only money but your time. You're spending your time with them, and you may be taking time away from somewhere else, because time is the real, to me, is the real asset. So if I'm spending, 5 hours out of the day not training but talking and getting to know you and doing all the extra things, where I could be spending that time selling or marketing or something, that's a huge thing. So I'm spending time, money, resources on a person. So I want that process to be as dialed in as possible. So that's kind of what I've learned those last two instances, is maybe I need to add a personality test, like those little trinkets in there that I've learned from other agency owners or other businesses, where there's a personality test, there's a phone interview, then there's an in-person interview. And I know a lot of people are like, well, you don't want the interview process to be super long, but sometimes that's valuable, because it shows you that this person's in it. Like they're
Yeah.
okay with doing a phone, then an in-person, and then taking a small personality test. Like if you're okay with doing those things, it's almost pre-qualifying you that, okay, this person's in it, this person's locked in. But if it's a quick hire, they may just jump in and jump out, like that can really set a business back. And
Yeah.
luckily, I'm at a size, revenue and premium wise, where I can kind of steer the ship pretty quick. If I lose somebody, I can jump back in and keep working. But at some point, that could really just suck the financial drain out of the business. It could really be a big hit if you hire somebody and they leave you pretty quick. So that's what I'm kind of learning. Just be intentional about the hiring process, and create a true process in how we hire people every time, and find something that works for us.
Yeah. You can, just like anything else, you continue learning. I was just sharing with you, we're going through some of those,
Mm.
issues right now. And but what it's done is it's really enabled me to hone in on my hiring, and then my onboarding.
Oh, onboarding
And
too.
and that just keeps getting better and better. Um my training, my onboarding was, in years past, was pretty bad.
Yeah.
And now it's pretty well dialed in.
Yeah.
And I know I've heard you speak, previously, that, um, that we all learn a little bit different. Like if someone asked you to, um, to figure out, let's just say what it is, how you quote on Easy Links or whatever, you would go figure that out, and find out what steps were, and do the research you had to. Not everybody learns that way. Not everybody takes that initiative. I think, we have to spell things out for people and really get granular
Yeah.
of the steps that are taken, which is part of your processes and procedures. With my processes, I literally, and some of it seems kind of silly, but it is almost like talking to a 5-year-old. Like, this is the next step. I mean, I really
Mm.
had to think, and so that someone doesn't have to think or wonder or ask the question. You've spelled that out for them as much as possible, and then you realize, however many times you do it, you always add, things to
Yeah,
it,
you go back.
and get better along the way. Um, Talk a little bit about when you recognized with this last hire that it wasn't going to be a good fit, and I might have to let this person go. What was that like for you, and how long did it take you to kind of determine, yes, this absolutely, I have to let this person go?
So that would have been my first hire. So I hired somebody when I was probably just a year in, so
Mhm.
pretty early in this style of business. So I hired somebody just a year in. I got her working and everything. She was in the process of doing her pre-licensing stuff. So once I realized kind of just the work ethic wasn't as high as I needed it to be for that first hire. So I kind of just started noticing different things. And it was honestly more of my fault, because that was a quick hire, didn't do a
Yeah.
lot of background information, didn't do a extensive interview. I think we interviewed once.
Yeah.
type of deal. So it was totally 100% on me. And I don't think I projected what type of work ethic this industry takes. Like if you want to be good, if you want to grow, and if you want to build something special here, it's going to take a lot of effort. Like this isn't just like a plug and play type of industry. Like you kind of got
Yeah.
to come in, hit the ground running, be ready to learn, be ready to lock in and focus. And I didn't do a good job of expressing that is what this job entailed. I kind of just made it seem it's not just a data entry job where you can kind of chill, take
Yeah.
your break, come back and do that. It's
Yeah.
not that. So, and that is totally 100% on me. So I do want to kind of take the brunt of the blame for that, not explaining it. But that's when I noticed. It's just when I kind of noticed, okay, she hadn't logged into her exam FX today and stuff like that. So that kind of started. She didn't do anything on the weekend, which to me, I'm like, I know I'm kind of a overworker in some instances. So I would be like, I'm getting this stuff done.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my fault. And I take the full responsibility of that. But that's kind of when I noticed is just that work ethic wasn't where we needed it at the age my agency was. At some point, there may be a time where we have enough staff where if somebody comes in and they're a little slower or their work ethic isn't as high as everybody else, we could probably fit them in. But now, at so early, I need that next person to be like a hustler and ready to work. So that was my fault for sure.
Yeah. I love that you're taking ownership for that. At the same token, um, you don't you don't know all the questions to ask, and even going through a hiring process, let's just say that you were going to ask somebody that's been through it a number of times. Well, a lot of times you don't know the questions to ask. You don't That's
Yeah.
a saying, you don't know what you don't know. And so and being independent, and I'm also a little bit more of the person of, well, I'm just going to jump in and do it and figure it out. Well, it's
It was a
I've
bad
learned some
idea.
costly lessons that way, um,
Bad.
but but it was a very good experience for you in a number of ways, both with all
100%.
of it,
Yeah, 100%.
all of it. So I love a lot of us as business owners that do accept the responsibility and say, I screwed that up. But there's also, look, we're still learning too. We're learning. We learn. We just you've only been in the insurance business for less than 4 years.
Yeah.
So that's still a relatively small amount of time. And then all of us are trying to figure out the business ownerships and all the aspects that come with it. And frankly, I mean, the people piece of it is, for me, it's the most difficult. It's by far the most difficult.
It's been hard.
Yeah, it is. It is hard. And I think the advice of having a slower hiring process is poor advice. I'd strongly recommend that because you want to vet people as well as you possibly can,
Yeah.
and going through some of those different all those different channels, you gain more access, and you find out if they're a good value culture fit for you, and you extract as much information as you can, and you also kind of weed people out. You want people that want to work for you,
Yeah.
and that want to learn about what you're about. You want it to be a mutual fit.
Yeah. And I think that goes back to what we talked about at the beginning is just my professional development that I've learned is so important, not only obviously for me to grow my business, but for me to attract talent. Like for me to attract talent, it's like, well, if I'm going to work with or for somebody, I want to know that that person is a strong leader, that person is
Yeah.
focused, that person is reading potentially, that person is here as long as I'm here and they leave way after me, like just that type of stuff. You want to make yourself so attractive in that sense
Yeah.
that people are like, hey, I want to work there. Like, and that's kind
Yeah.
of my new scope on this is like, how can I position myself, whether that's posting more about the day to day or posting more about our journey, but how can I make this agency attractive to young professionals coming into the workforce? I think that has been something that I'm really focused on. I've seen other businesses, not necessarily insurance businesses, but other industries do that, where it's like they attract, whether it's real estate or mortgage originating, like they've been able to attract young professionals to that industry. And I'm trying to do the same thing for my agency specifically, and just let them know that this is a great opportunity with a great company, a growing company, a tech forward company. So that's kind of going back to the personal development and professional development side.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is just sharing your vision,
Yeah.
right?
Being open.
Aware and what you want to be and the importance of what we're doing, that you take this, coming back to your consultative approach. We're not just trying to grow, and we're not trying to be Geico,
Yeah.
and but this is what we want to do for people. We want to be on someone's team, and support them and protect them as much as possible. That's a huge part of it. So you want to find people that are aligned with those
Perfectly.
sorts of things.
Yeah.
So I do want to kind of stay on that a little bit. What was that like, firing somebody or letting somebody
Ooh,
go?
it's a great question. So that's a really great question. So it's tough because, like you said, this is new. So I've
So hard,
hired and fired in year one. So I have no experience with hiring, which
yeah,
means I have no experience with firing.
right,
So it's hard. So you want to be as straightforward, of course, but also have some empathy or sympathy. If you've been fired before, you want to have some sense of humanality in what you're saying. So it was tough, man. I thought about it a couple weeks before I did it. Honestly, I was up at night, kind of thinking about it,
yeah,
and I don't know. It's just you never understand how much what your words mean to people. So it's like you don't
yeah,
want to say, yeah, just whatever you say, it's kind of hard. So what I learned is you want to be straightforward. You want to be you can be apologetic if it was something that you could have did differently, which I was. I did let the person know that, hey, I don't think I've made the job description as descriptive as it should have been, and I apologize for that. But unfortunately, at this point, this just isn't working with how much work we need done and all this stuff. So I was very apologetic for myself, and just letting them know that I take the brunt of this. And if they needed help, let me know. So I was real like that kind of thing. But going into it, I was like, man, I don't know. Like, is there a procedure? Like, is there a certain way to fire people? I was YouTubing like how to fire people. Like I was just doing
yeah,
it.
yeah.
So it's tough, man. I mean, you're just learning on the go. But it is something I can take with me now and be like, okay, I know when to do it. I know not to wait. I know that it's okay to let people go. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a for-profit business that I'm trying to grow, for my family and for the people that I hire for their families and for themselves. So I want the environment to be good. So it's okay to have to fire people. It's not the best,
No,
but it is something that, I mean, if
terrible.
I'm in a business, it's going to happen. You're not going to go through your whole business life without having to get rid of somebody. So I'm glad I was able to learn it kind of year one. And I don't say learn it. There's still some, nuances I got to get through. But yeah, it was tough for sure.
Um, my view, worst thing you can do, um, even if it's well warranted, for the people that I've had to let go, which I had, um, I had to fire somebody that I actually used to office with, in a previous position,
Mm.
and turned out that they were extremely unethical, and so it was valid, but it was still it was easy then that it had to be done, but it was still difficult because you are taking away someone's livelihood.
Yeah. And this, yeah, you are at that time, in that moment. Yeah.
So worst worst thing you can do in my view is letting someone go, no matter how valid it is. All those things, hiring, going through that, letting someone go, made you a better stronger business owner.
It has.
It
I'll
just
be
did.
honest. It has. It has.
Um, so I just think it's invaluable. We all have to go through it,
Yeah.
and so that's part of it. So let's turn to some happier times. You, I know you talked in the past. You're big on marketing,
Yep.
and so talk a little bit about your marketing strategy, where you're doing it, where you've had some success?
Yeah, I am really big on marketing. I actually have a MBA in marketing thanks
Yeah.
to Dublin Business School. But I am right now. I have been doing more marketing within my clientele. So let me explain that. So I think the biggest and the best way to market yourself is by what you've done for somebody else. So
Yeah.
if I help you, Brad, with if I help you with insurance, and let's say your next door neighbor is your golf buddy or whatever, and y'all are out golfing, and you're like, man, I got this really good insurance agent. He's doing this, he's doing that, and then your golf buddy's telling you, man, my insurance agent, I haven't talked to my
Yeah.
insurance agent in like 10 years. You're like, man, you should give Tamron a call, man. He's helped me. He's done this. He's given us a policy like an umbrella that we never even thought we needed.
Yeah.
So that form of marketing, instead of being rah 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 in people's face marketing on Facebook, which I still do, but on
Yeah.
Facebook and on LinkedIn and stuff, I think that word of mouth marketing has been huge. And the only thing it costs you is having a really good client experience. So my marketing focus right now is all put into how good can I make the insurance buying experience for everybody that we come across that makes you want to go tell somebody else about that experience you just had. So that's been in 2023 towards the end and all of this year. What we're going to focus on is client experience, um, customer satisfaction, and making sure that our clients want to refer us. And I
Yeah.
think if you can crack that code, like they want to refer you, it's not a hassle, or you're not like begging them, hey, can I have a referral? They're letting you know, hey, I'm sending 4 or 5 people your way, and I appreciate what you did for me. But that's also twofold, because you also have to work with the right clients, because you can get, if you do a non-standard monoline auto and you get them the cheapest rate they could find, right? Now they're like, I'm gonna go tell everybody I got the cheapest rate I can
Yeah. Right.
find. But that typically is the same style of business. But if you tell your true clientele, the person that you want to market to, that's why I said at the beginning, it's important to find out who is your ideal client. If you tell your ideal client, which ours is a married family, young child, new homeowner, just getting life going, that's my niche right now. So if you help that person, who do they hang around with? Normally, other
Yeah.
young couples with young children just moved into their house, so they're letting their friends know. So that is a big thing, but you got to understand it works twofold. If you're
Yeah.
writing the wrong type of business, you're going to continue to get the wrong type of business, and before you know it, you're in like a whirlwind of non-standard autos. So you don't want to do that. But if you do it with your market and who you want to market to, it can be very fruitful for you, and that's what we're doing marketing
Yeah.
wise.
Are you actively asking for referrals?
You know what? I have played with both. So we do ask. It's a part of the onboarding that we have
Yeah.
set up. It's a part of our onboarding process. So I do ask. I'm going to, once I get somebody hired, we have in the onboarding a welcome call. So that account manager, or whatever you want to call them, in that role, that account manager will do a welcome call. And at the end, they'll be like, hey, Brad, I'm glad you had a great experience with us. I'm glad you were able to get all the insurance that you needed. Is there anybody else that you may know that could use our services? And we'll leave it at that. We'll see what Brad says. If he says, yeah, I got a couple people, that's fine. But I've also been playing with just making the experience really good, because if you can make that experience really good, I think they refer you, I've learned, almost without you asking.
Yeah.
And it's happened more common that way than when you ask. Now, the Google review, I do think people, you need to be focused on asking that,
Yeah.
because nobody's going to just go out on Google and be like, I'm going to leave that person a
Yeah.
review. That's hard. But
Yeah.
the referring piece, I think, is almost, especially in our industry, because people need insurance. People are talking about insurance a lot more with their rates going up.
Right now. Yeah.
It's been so big. And I don't know if that's just a fad because of how high rates are, but the people that I haven't asked have actually referred me the most business. And we've tracked it. Like I talked to you, I'm going by data. So I'm not just spewing numbers, but we've set a list of people, hey, don't ask, do ask. And the people that we've not asked have sent us a lot of business, and it's been helpful. So I do ask and I don't ask, but I'm just kind of doing a little beta testing to see if it's overarching to ask. And then we'll always ask at the renewal. So we'll do a renewal review, and then we'll always ask at the renewal. But the new business, not always.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that about the renewal. That's when we've been also, and a couple times. I've always been terrible at asking for referrals when you set up an appointment. There's a lot to go over. It just was never part of my routine.
Not easy.
We do now with our welcome onboarding. There's we have some messaging, about that. We ask on our review process, and then in our kind of our renewal cycle, this is all on Agency Zoom. We ask on there too with a little offer of a, gift card or whatever. If anything, it's just kind of putting that little nugget in their ear of, hey, we'd welcome anybody, because it is such a hot topic. We're seeing these rates that are going up 60, 100%. People are referring, man. I mean,
try my guy.
Yeah, it is. It's true.
Yeah.
Maybe they said, try my guy because they didn't get their renewal yet and it hasn't gone up 60, 80%.
Yeah. Just try me before that.
I don't know. I want to kind of circle back a little bit to your wife's been working with you. I'm going to try not to put you on the spot too much, but this is probably also a good learning curve just in training somebody in, right? Because you're learning what questions are asked and what people need to know. How have you kind of refined your training methods with having somebody there consistent now?
For me, and my wife, she learns quickly. So for me, what I'm trying to do with my training methods is just be available. I think that's the number one thing. Be available and let them do things. So that was my one thing. It's like I had my last person and I was like over their shoulder. I was like, oh, no, do it this way, do it this way. Yeah. And I think if you just let them do things, they learn so much faster. And my wife being a testament to that, she's learned so much quicker. Like, let them take a phone call and hear what the client is saying, hear kind of what the conversations are like. Because once you take 5 or 10 phone calls, you'll know, okay, this is kind of the gist of what the phone calls are like. You won't get a wild left field question 98% of the time. Normally it's, hey, I had an issue with my bill. And once you start looking at bills a couple of times, you're like, oh, this is pretty, it's pretty simple. But if you have somebody who's like, no, do the bill like this and do this, you don't get to kind of learn that skill. So I've learned just to back off, let them come to you with, hey, Tamron, I didn't really understand this. Could you show me this? Instead of, hey, you're probably not going to understand this. So let me tell you this. Don't information overload. So that is the biggest thing I'm learning with my wife, and what I've learned since hiring someone else is just don't give them information overload. Let them kind of learn, let them play around and stuff, and they may pick up stuff faster that way than if you just say, let's train real quick, like let's sit down and train one-on-one. So that's the biggest thing, is just let them figure it out, learn something on their own, and then come to you with the list of questions if that's how it is. So that's the big thing.
They'll retain it better too.
Yeah.
When they figure it out on their own. You're hiring now. What is it that you're looking for to have help with? Like, what specific tasks and duties do you want to be taken over by your next staff person?
Yeah, that's a great question. Let me preface that question with, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but my reasoning for opening an insurance agency, I do not want to be the number one producer in my agency. I do not want to be the agent owner who the person cannot get their problem handled unless they talk to me. So I never want to be the bottleneck. So I honestly don't want to be in production much longer. I obviously know that's a for most people, some agencies come in with money. I didn't come in with a book,
Yeah.
or I started from zero. So I had to be in the trenches and doing everything. So I wanted to start that question that you asked with, I do want to remove myself from day-to-day agency operations, such as selling, service, um, all that type of stuff, and do more higher level things, do more marketing, do more out in public stuff. So I do want to preface that with that. My
Yeah.
first hire, though, I want to bring in probably strictly service. And I've learned that, not learned, I knew this when I made my business plan. I want to have two sides of the house. So I want to have people who service, and I want to have people who sell, and I want the
Yeah.
service people to maybe do some inside sales, which to me means within the book, or if somebody calls and
Yeah.
is in our book already and they just want to add a auto policy or whatever, they can do that. Service people are going to be licensed to do that type of selling.
Yeah.
I do not want a commingling. So I do want two sides of the house. So I'm going to start with service. And I also know that I want to bring everybody who gets hired, unless they have a sales background in insurance, everybody's going to go through the service team. So you're going to go from service into sales
Okay.
once we feel like you're ready to take that on. Because I want you to know what that service person goes through day to day. So you know, oh, I can't miss an email because Mike may not know what to email the person if I don't put the email. Because salespeople, we sell. Like, I'm a salesperson, so I sell. I'm like, I don't really care about the email. I'll put whatever in just to get to the next thing. So no, focus on what that email is, so our service team can be well equipped in helping that. So just wanted to preface that with that. But strictly service, bringing somebody in to answer phones, be the first line of, not defense, but first line of communication on the phones, and then kind of help the call that way, especially if it's somebody who's wanting to get a quote, go through that with them and do the discovery call. But all service to start, and I'm looking for somebody full time to do that, and be, I like to call them account manager. Some people say CSRs, but I just
Yeah.
call it,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call
Yeah.
it. But I want the account manager role to just kind of take over that sales, that service work for me right now. So take that service hat off, give it to somebody else.
Yeah. So you start there. Have you allowed yourself to look, and this is a ways out, have you allowed yourself to look at what a compensation plan might look like for a producer?
For a producer, yeah. So I have learned that, one, the insurance industry is incredible because the people in it are great and they really are open with what they're doing. A
Yeah.
lot of them, anyway. And also, there's so many ways. It's almost hard because there's so many ways to pay people. I feel like this may be one of the only industries where you could pay somebody. I could be paying somebody different than you are, than the next person,
Correct.
100 different ways. So I've looked into it on a producer, but I haven't nailed down something. I think it's going to be one of those things where hopefully my first producer is kind of gives me grace and lets me know, hey, I'm going to work on some things to kind of pay you this way. I want to make sure this works for you. And if we need to change it, we can change it. I never want to go down in pay plan or comp. I always want to either change it up or just maybe tweak something, because I never want to come to somebody and be like, hey, we're going to have to, change your comp plan to lower, especially at our age and stage. So I always want to either start low and go up.
Yep.
And tell them that up front, like, hey, you may be starting here, but I promise you in a year from now, it's going to go here or whatever. So I've been tweaking and playing with some things, doing some calculations. Obviously it'll be, I think nowadays it's hard not to do salary plus commission. I don't know about renewals yet. I think it kind of depends on how long. I want them to build up how long they've been here. And I want them to understand the business. Because if I tell somebody who's never been in insurance, hey, we're going to pay you new business and renewals, I'm like, well, what the heck does that mean? I want them to know, like, oh, this is a renewal and this is what a renewal is worth. And now they're even probably will come down on their salary to get some of that renewal money. So that's kind of what I'm playing with, kind of starting them salary, new business, and then adding renewals maybe at like year 3 when they get vetted or whatever we want to call it, and then kind of bring down that salary. So that's what I'm playing with in my head right now.
Yeah, that's something. I guess my advice would be to research the heck out of that one, because and then you you decide what's best for integrity,
Yeah.
At that point, because like you said, they're all over the map. I mean, what's this? And this is too high, you can't do more than 35, whatever it is.
Yeah, it's crazy.
There's so many different ways, and you just have to determine what's best for you. What in the for the what would you like? How would you like to see integrity improve throughout the rest of this year? What would you like to add? What would you like to improve on for your business?
It's a really good question. Besides adding staff,
Yeah.
I think the main thing I want to improve on is continuing to improve on the style of business we're writing. So our clientele continue to improve on that. And also just improve as far as bringing in clients from the beginning with their whole policy. So I do a lot of new business home closings. In
Yeah.
that, you get a lot of home only because people are so focused on
Yes.
so I think what we can improve on is going ahead and telling them how simple it is to just get the auto quoted right now. I know you're going through a lot. I know you're doing a lot with your new home, but go ahead and quote the auto right now. You'll get the discount. And I want to be really intentional with getting at least 2 policies per client.
Yeah.
So like I said, going back to the numbers, data, I've become a data man. I wasn't always, but 2.5 to 3 policies per client is where I'm really focused on right now. So that's where I want to see us get better. Adding more policies per client is the biggest growth where I think we can go. So work it in my book now. So I got a lot of gold nuggets within the book where I don't have to go outside sell anybody. I can really just focus on our book size now and kind of grow that. But adding more policies per client is
that's a great one. It's a really good one. Last question for you. It's kind of a curveball. What's it been like working with your wife?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Working with my wife has been.
And if she's sitting right next to you, just blink twice. And then
it's been fun, man. It's been fun.
Yeah.
I think it's important. And I talked to you're in it. So I talked to Stephen Turnbull a lot, and just people who are single agency owners, not single and not married, but they're the only person in the agency. And I just understood like it's so important to bring your wife or your spouse, whether you're a woman or man, your spouse, into what you're doing, especially if you're building a business, because one, it's cool because they get to see, okay, what does he or she do on a day-to-day? Like what's going on over there? Like where is this coming from? And for me in my life, I want this agency to be the financial vehicle for my family. So with that being said, it's like almost more important that she needs to be involved. So this is kind of one of those things where my wife's already involved. She knows what's going on. She knows insurance enough. And it's just a great thing. I mean, we're building this. I didn't want to build this alone, so it's good to bring her on. And she's helping build something. So it's been fun, man. I have no complaints about it.
How does she like it?
She likes it. Now I wouldn't say it's her love and passion, but I do think she enjoys seeing me in this element as far as like just growing a business. I think that's really cool for her to see. So she does like that. She does like, talking to people, and she was a property manager before, so she knows kind of the renewal gist and all that. So she likes talking to people and making connections and stuff. But I just think like insurance, like most people, she does not in love with insurance, which I wasn't either until I got into it. So that part, I don't think she loves insurance, but it's also, she's also having fun. Just helping me grow the business, I think.
And maybe it's a good fit long term. You just never know. And it doesn't, to your point, we love the aspect of being a business owner and having this opportunity. And yes, the insurance is tough. And I don't know. I had Vonda Copeland on recently, and I knew they had a big operation in Kansas, and she joined. Her husband had the independent agency, and she joined, and then ultimately became, a partner. Well, she handles primarily their HR piece, training, and because they have, I talked about, hiring 3 people last year. I think she hired 17.
Wow.
You want to get some hiring. You want some hiring tips. You might want to call Vonda.
Yeah.
But and so that was, became her niche, and she runs their technology, and so she's obviously heavily involved, and she plays a vital role in their company.
Right.
So as you grow, it just doesn't have to be about liability and collision. So there is aspects that might be exciting, for you guys to do it together. So good for you guys. I couldn't
Couldn't
tell
do
my
it.
wife. No, I tell my wife all this time. It just wouldn't work out. No,
It's definitely not for everybody, I would say.
no. But I always enjoy asking, the married couples that are involved in it. And I think there's some struggles just like anything else, but ultimately I think most of them feel very strongly it's very good experience for them.
Yeah, for sure.
So. Hey man, thanks again for coming on. I'm glad we were able to connect. Obviously looking forward to staying connected and hearing and watching your progress. It's a struggle for us all. So yeah, you're gonna get there.
I'm thankful, man. Thank you.
Yeah. Everyone else, thank you for listening to another episode of the Agents to Owners podcast. We'll see you next week.